The cafe was nearly full when Armin Rahimi pushed open the glass door and stepped inside. A soft bell chimed above him. Warm air scented with roasted coffee beans wrapped around his shoulders, a sharp contrast to the gray drizzle outside. Conversations hummed, cups clinked, and the espresso machine hissed like a restless creature behind the counter. And, as always, the room shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just subtly enough. Eyes flickered toward him, some curious, some admiring, some pitying. Armin had grown used to that silent wave of attention. It followed him everywhere, the price of being both a public success and a visible reminder of survival. His tailored charcoal suit, his composed posture, and the faint rhythmic click of carbon fiber against tile announced him before he ever spoke. 5 years ago, a highway accident had taken his left leg. In the years since, he had rebuilt not just his body, but his empire. Investors called him relentless. Magazines called him inspirational. Employees called him brilliant. No one called him lonely. He scanned the cafe for a quiet corner. Every table was taken. Couples leaning toward each other, students hunched over laptops, friends laughing too loudly. Every table but one. By the window sat a young woman alone. A small round table, 2 chairs. Steam curled from her untouched tea. A worn notebook lay open before her, filled with careful handwriting. She wore a simple blue dress and had tied her hair back in a low ponytail. No jewelry except a thin silver bracelet. No attempt to draw attention. Which was exactly why she stood out. Armin hesitated. He disliked asking. He preferred control. But today control required humility. He walked toward her. "Excuse me," he said, his voice smooth but softer than usual. "Can I share this table?" She looked up. For a second, surprise crossed her face. Not recognition, not awe, just simple surprise at being interrupted. Her gaze flickered briefly downward, to the sleek curve of his prosthetic leg, then rose back to his eyes without lingering. And she smiled. "Of course," she replied. "Chairs don't mind sharing." The answer was so unexpected that he blinked. "Chairs don't mind sharing," he repeated faintly, as if testing the sentence. "They've never complained to me," she added lightly. A faint, reluctant smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He nodded and lowered himself into the chair opposite her, adjusting carefully. Silence settled between them. Outside, rain traced thin rivers down the glass. Inside, warmth pressed close. She returned to her notebook, pen moving steadily. Armin opened his phone, pretending to review emails. But he found himself watching the way her brow furrowed slightly as she wrote, the way she paused as if choosing words carefully. "You're writing something important?" he asked before he could stop himself. She glanced up. "Important to me? That sounds serious." She shrugged gently. "Not serious. Honest." He folded his hands on the table. "Letters?" "Yes. To someone special." Her pen paused mid-sentence. "Yes," she said quietly. "To my father." Armin nodded once. "That's thoughtful." "He doesn't answer," she added, a faint smile touching her lips. The implication settled between them. "He lives far away?" he asked, though he already sensed the truth. She shook her head. "He passed away 2 years ago." "I'm sorry," Armin said automatically. "It's okay," she replied, and the steadiness in her voice made it believable. "Writing helps me feel like I'm still talking to him. Like he's still listening." Armin stared at the table for a moment. He hadn't spoken to his own father in 3 years. Their last conversation had been a sharp-edged argument in a hospital corridor. His father had wanted him to slow down, to delegate, to focus on healing. Armin had heard only doubt. Pride had slammed the door shut. He told himself he was too busy to reopen it. "That's admirable," he said. She studied him, tilting her head slightly. "Can I ask you something?" she asked. The question surprised him. People usually asked for advice, investments, photos, not permission to question him. "You can." She looked at his prosthetic leg briefly. "Does it hurt?" He inhaled slowly. "Sometimes. Phantom pain mostly. You get used to it." She shook her head gently. "I didn't mean that." His gaze sharpened. "What did you mean?" She met his eyes directly. There was no pity in them. No awkwardness. "I meant, does it hurt carrying everything alone?" The words slipped into him like a key turning in a lock he didn't know existed. Around them, laughter rose from another table. Cups clattered. Life continued. But for a second, the world narrowed to her question. I don't carry everything alone, he replied, too quickly. I have a board, a team. That's not what I meant either, she said softly. He felt exposed in a way that boardroom interrogations had never managed. She closed her notebook. You look, she continued carefully, like someone who doesn't let anyone see when he's tired. His jaw tightened. That's part of the job. Is it? She asked. He didn't answer. For years, he had built walls disguised as discipline. Strength disguised as silence. Control disguised as independence. She rested her hands on the table. You don't have to be strong every minute. Her tone wasn't dramatic. It wasn't emotional. It was simply factual. He looked away, toward the rain-streaked window. You don't know me, he said quietly. No, she agreed. But I know that look. He glanced back at her. What look? The one that says, if I stop moving, everything will fall apart. His breath caught. No journalist had ever described him that accurately. He had built a company from ruins after the accident. Investors had doubted his ability to lead with a disability. Competitors had circled like sharks. So he worked harder, longer, relentlessly. He couldn't afford to stop. Or so he believed. You're very observant, he said finally. My father taught me, she replied. The rain outside softened to a mist. Light filtered through thinning clouds. What did your father do? He asked. He was a mechanic, she said with pride. Owned a small workshop. He could fix almost anything. She paused, then added quietly, except himself. Armin's eyes flicked to her. He lost his leg in a factory accident when I was 7, she continued. The machine malfunctioned. The air shifted. He hated when people stared, she said with a faint smile. So he used to make jokes before they could. Said it was better to control the story than let others write it for you. Armin felt something stir in his chest. He used to say something else too. What? Armin asked, his voice softer now. She looked directly at his prosthetic leg, then back into his eyes. He said, losing a limb doesn't make you half a man. Losing your heart does. The words hit him harder than the accident ever had. Images flashed uninvited. His father standing awkwardly at the hospital doorway, flowers in hand. The message he never returned. The holidays spent working instead of visiting. The relationships that dissolved because he was too focused. Had he protected himself so fiercely that he had become unreachable? My father cried once, she continued. Not because of pain, but because he thought I would be ashamed of him. Were you? Armin asked quietly. She looked almost offended. I was proud, she said firmly. He showed up, every day, even when walking hurt, even when people whispered. He never let bitterness live in him. Bitterness. Armin swallowed. He remembered the months after the accident. Anger at the driver who ran the red light, anger at his body, anger at weakness. He had buried that anger under achievement. But perhaps it had never truly left. He told me, she added softly, strength isn't about standing tall. It's about standing kind. Something inside Armin fractured. His vision blurred. He blinked hard, but a tear escaped anyway, sliding down before he could stop it. He turned his face slightly, embarrassed. I'm sorry, he muttered. For what? She asked gently. For not being that man. You still can be, she replied simply. The waiter approached with the bill, placing it carefully between them. Armin reached for it instinctively, control again. But her hand reached it first. Let me, she said. You don't have to. I know, she replied. But my father always paid the first time he met someone new. He said the first meeting should feel like a gift. He slowly withdrew his hand. What's your name? He asked. Layla. I'm Armin. She smiled faintly. I know. Recognition dawned. You do. You're the CEO who rebuilt Rahimi Tech after the crash, she said. My father followed your story. He admired you. Armin stared at her, stunned. He used to point at articles about you, she continued. He said, that man survived losing his leg. He must have a strong heart. The words shattered whatever remained of his composure. He covered his face briefly, breathing unevenly. I'm not sure I do, he whispered. Layla stood, giving him space. Then build it, she said softly. You're good at building things. A broken laugh escaped him through tears. Outside, the rain had stopped completely. Sunlight broke through the clouds, turning the wet pavement into mirrors of gold. Layla picked up her notebook. "Next Thursday," she said. "I'll be here." It wasn't a question. Armin nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "Next Thursday." She walked toward the door, then paused. "Visit your father," she added quietly, as if she could read the unfinished chapter inside him. He didn't ask how she knew. He simply watched her step into the sunlight. For the first time in years, Armin Rahimi didn't feel like a headline or a symbol of resilience. He felt like a son. And as the cafe door closed behind her, he reached for his phone, not to check emails, not to review contracts, but to dial a number he should have called 3 years ago.